John Miller wiped the sweat from his forehead as he checked the gauges on his mining pod. After 3 years of working alone on asteroid B427, he had gotten used to the silence of space. The asteroid mining job paid well, but the loneliness was starting to get to him. He was just finishing his routine maintenance check when strange lights appeared outside his pod window. At first, he thought it was just solar reflections from nearby debris, a common sight in the asteroid belt. But these lights were different. They pulsed with a purple glow he had never seen before. "Control, are you seeing this?" John called through his radio. Only static answered back. The lights grew brighter, forming a perfect circle outside his pod. John's hands shook as he reached for the emergency beacon. Before he could press it, a soft humming filled the air. The metal walls of his pod began to vibrate. In a flash of purple light, 3 figures appeared in his pod. John's jaw dropped. They were women, but unlike any he had ever seen. Their skin had a slight purple tint that seemed to shimmer. Their long silver hair floated as if they were underwater. But most striking were their eyes, completely silver with no pupils. "Do not be afraid, John Miller," the tallest one said in perfect English. Her voice was melodic, almost hypnotic. "We have been watching you." John backed away until he hit the wall. "Who? What are you?" The second alien woman stepped forward. Her movements were too graceful to be human. "We are the Lyrans. We have searched many star systems for someone like you." "Someone like me?" John's voice cracked. "I'm just a miner." The third alien smiled, revealing teeth that looked like pearls. "You are much more than that. You are special." John noticed they had surrounded him in a triangle formation. Their silver eyes all focused on him with an intensity that made his skin crawl. "We need you to come with us," the tall one said. She reached out a hand with long, delicate fingers. "I'm not going anywhere." John tried to sound brave, but fear made his voice shake. "Stay back." "Sleep now," the aliens said in unison. Their eyes began to glow brighter. John felt his legs go weak. The room started spinning. As darkness crept into the edges of his vision, he saw the aliens moving closer. Their beautiful faces were the last thing he saw before everything went black. He never felt them catch his falling body, never saw them open a portal back to their ship, and he had no way of knowing that this was just the beginning of an adventure that would change not only his life, but the future of 2 species. As John's unconscious form floated through their portal, the tall alien touched his face gently. "He is the one we've been searching for. Now our real work begins." The mining pod grew quiet again, the only sign of the incredible event being a lingering purple glow that slowly faded into the darkness of space. John Miller was gone, taken by beings whose true intentions remained a mystery. The lonely asteroid continued its endless orbit, keeping the secret of what had happened there that day. John's head throbbed as consciousness slowly returned. Instead of the cold metal floor of his mining pod, he felt something soft beneath him. His eyes fluttered open, and he found himself lying on what looked like a bed made of clouds. The room around him took his breath away. The walls seemed to be made of crystal, with swirling patterns of light dancing through them. One entire wall was transparent, showing a view of space he'd never seen before. Purple nebulas and strange constellations he didn't recognize. "Where am I?" he whispered to himself, sitting up slowly. "You are aboard the Celestial Heart," a familiar melodic voice answered. The tall alien woman from before stepped through what appeared to be a solid wall. "I am Lyra, first navigator of our ship." John's heart raced as memories of the abduction flooded back. "Why did you take me? What do you want?" Lyra's silver eyes seemed to shimmer with sadness. "Our situation is desperate, John Miller. Our species is dying." She waved her hand, and holographic images appeared in the air. They showed a beautiful planet with purple oceans and crystal cities. But as the images progressed, John saw hospitals filled with alien men whose skin had turned gray, their silver eyes dulled. A genetic disease is killing all males of our species, Lyra explained. We have searched countless worlds for compatible DNA to help us find a cure. You are the first human we found with genetic markers that could save us. But why didn't you just ask for help? John demanded. Why kidnap me? A second alien woman entered, one of the others from the mining pod. We tried diplomatic contact with Earth governments 70 years ago. They responded with weapons. She introduced herself as Nova, the ship's scientist. John noticed their movements seemed even stranger in this environment. They almost floated rather than walked. How many of you are there? On this ship? 500, Lyra answered. All female. Our last males died 50 years ago. We survived through advanced technology, but without genetic diversity, our species will be extinct within 1 generation. Suddenly, alarms began blaring. The crystal walls pulsed with red light. Nova rushed to a control panel that materialized from nowhere. We have a problem. His human body is rejecting our atmosphere. Cell degradation has begun. John felt a wave of dizziness hit him. The room started spinning again. Quick, put him in stasis, Lyra commanded. We didn't come this far to lose him now. As John's vision blurred, he saw more alien women rushing into the room. Their beautiful faces looked worried as they surrounded him with strange devices. Wait, he tried to say, but his tongue felt heavy. Sleep now, John Miller. Lyra's voice was in his head this time. When you wake, you will understand everything. The last thing he saw was Lyra's face, her silver eyes glowing with determination. Then darkness took him again, but this time, strange dreams followed. Dreams of crystal cities, purple oceans, and a dying race that needed him more than he could imagine. In another part of the ship, Nova studied John's medical readings. His DNA is even more compatible than we thought. But the changes it's causing in his own cells, I've never seen anything like it. Lyra touched the crystal wall, watching the stars stream by. We have to succeed. He's not just their salvation now. He's becoming something entirely new. The question is, will he survive the transformation? Behind them, John floated in a stasis pod, his skin beginning to shimmer with a faint purple glow. The greatest experiment in both human and Lyran history had begun, and no one could predict how it would end. When John woke again, his entire body felt different. His skin tingled with a strange new sensitivity. Opening his eyes, he found he could see colors he'd never noticed before. The transformation has begun, Nova said, checking his vital signs on a floating screen. Your cells have started adapting to our atmosphere. John sat up, noticing his skin had a faint purple shimmer. What's happening to me? Your DNA is evolving, Lyra explained, entering the room. It's combining with our genetic structure in ways we never expected. You're becoming a bridge between our species. The ship suddenly shuddered. Through the crystal walls, John saw they were approaching a massive planet with purple oceans and crystalline continents. Welcome to Lyra Prime, Nova said quietly. What's left of it? As they descended through the atmosphere, John saw the devastation. Once beautiful crystal cities lay partially in ruins. The few remaining male Lyrans moved like ghosts through the streets, their skin gray and lifeless. There are only 50 males left, Lyra said, her voice heavy with sorrow. And none will survive another year. In the medical center, John watched as doctors treated the dying males. Their genetic disease caused their bodies to literally crystallize from the inside out. We can save them, Nova explained, showing him complex genetic models. Your adapted DNA could provide the key to reversing the crystallization, but the process would permanently alter you. You would never be fully human again. John felt the weight of an entire civilization's hopes on his shoulders. And if I refuse? We return you to Earth, Lyra said simply. We are not monsters. We will not force you. As they walked through the dying city, John saw young Lyran children playing. Their laughter echoed off crystal walls, a sound of hope in a fading world. "There's something else you should know," Nova added. "The transformation. It would extend your lifespan to match ours. You would live for centuries." Before John could respond, alarms blared throughout the city. On view screens everywhere, a massive ship appeared in orbit. "Raiders," Lyra hissed. "They hunt dying civilizations, stealing technology and resources. They must have detected your changed DNA signature," Nova said to John. "If they capture you, they'll try to replicate the transformation process. They'll turn it into a weapon." John watched as Lyran defense ships rose to meet the threat. The choice before him had suddenly become even more complicated. Stay and risk becoming a target for raiders while trying to save a dying race, or return to his safe but lonely life on Earth. Lyra touched his arm gently, sending a strange tingle through his transformed skin. "Whatever you choose, you must decide quickly. The raiders will not wait, and neither will our people's extinction." Looking at his shimmering purple skin, then at the dying world around him, John realized there was really only one choice he could live with. But as he opened his mouth to answer, the first raiders teleported into the city, their weapons ready. The time for decisions had run out. Now it was time for action. Above them, the battle for Lyra Prime, and possibly the future of two species, was about to begin. The raiders never expected what happened next. John raised his hand instinctively, and a wave of crystalline energy burst from his palm, freezing the first wave of attackers in place. "Impossible," Nova whispered. "He's accessing abilities that took us centuries to master." Through his connection with Lyra, John navigated the crystalline security systems of their city. His mind accessed hidden files, revealing truths that shook him to his core. "You weren't just searching for compatible DNA," he said, turning to Lyra. "You were looking for someone specific." Images flashed through his mind. Hundreds of human test subjects over decades. Most had died. Some had gone insane. A few, like James Chen, had violently rejected the transformation. "We needed someone whose DNA contained traces of our ancestors," Lyra admitted. "Millennia ago, our species seeded Earth with genetic markers. We've been waiting for those markers to properly combine and evolve within a human host." The raiders regrouped, bringing in heavier weapons. Their leader, a scared alien with cybernetic enhancements, stepped forward. "The boy's worth more alive than dead," he growled. The genetic sequence in his blood could make armies of super soldiers. John accessed more hidden files through the crystal network. He saw the true scope of Lyran influence on Earth, subtle genetic manipulation across thousands of years, guiding human evolution toward this moment. "You played God with my entire species," he accused. "We were dying," Nova defended. "Our males were crystallizing, our children being born weaker with each generation. We had to ensure our survival." Another wave of raiders attacked. This time, John and Lyra fought in perfect sync, their shared consciousness anticipating each other's moves. Their combined powers turned the crystal walls into weapons, trapping raiders in growing crystalline structures. But the neural link between them revealed something else: Lyra's deeper feelings for him, carefully hidden until now. Her centuries of loneliness, watching her people fade. The moment she first saw him, and felt the ancient genetic connection spark between them. "The transformation isn't just about saving your species, is it?" John asked, deflecting a raider's energy blast. "You're trying to create something entirely new, a fusion of both our races." The battle paused as a massive explosion rocked the city's upper levels. The raiders' mothership had breached the defensive perimeter. Through the crystal network, John accessed the ship's most classified files. What he found chilled him: genetic experiments, failed hybridization attempts, the dark cost of the Lyran's desperation. "John," Lyra reached for him, but he pulled away. "Everything we did was to survive. By sacrificing how many others?" His skin pulsed with power he barely understood. The chamber shook as more raiders teleported in. This time, they carried weapons designed to harvest genetic material. They didn't care if he survived the extraction. John stood at a crossroads. The Lyrans had manipulated his species' evolution, caused countless deaths in their experiments, all to create him. Yet their survival now depended on his forgiveness and acceptance. Through his link with Lyra, he felt her genuine remorse, her hope for redemption. The Raiders would show no such mercy. They would weaponize his DNA, creating armies of unstable hybrids. As plasma fire filled the air and crystals shattered around them, John had to make another choice. Accept the painful truth of his creation and help the Lyrans, or let his anger doom both their species. The Raiders' genetic extractors powered up, humming with deadly purpose. Time had run out for contemplation. John looked at Lyra, their silver eyes meeting in understanding. Sometimes the truth hurt, but letting it destroy you was a choice. He took her hand, their combined power building for the real battle ahead. The Raiders would learn that some weapons couldn't be stolen. They had to be earned through transformation, acceptance, and forgiveness. The Raiders' genetic extractors hummed with deadly intent, but John and Lyra were ready. Their combined powers had transformed the chamber into a crystalline fortress. Through their neural link, they moved as one being. The hybrid must be contained. The Raider commander ordered. Maximum force authorized. John accessed Lyra's combat memories, centuries of martial knowledge flowing into his mind. His transformed body moved with inhuman grace, dodging plasma bolts while redirecting crystalline energy. Nova worked frantically at a control panel. The city's defense grid is failing. Their mothership is deploying ground troops. Through the crystal walls, they watched waves of Raiders descending on anti-gravity platforms. Their black armor absorbed the city's light, creating shadows that seemed to move independently. They're not just Raiders, John realized, reading their surface thoughts. They're sponsored by rival alien governments. If they capture me, they'll start a genetic arms race. Lyra spun her staff, creating a dome of energy around them. We need to reach the central spire, the city's main weapon systems. An explosion cut her off. Raiders had breached the ceiling, rappelling down on energy lines. John felt Lyra's panic as a neural disruptor blast caught her in the shoulder. Lyra. Without thinking, he reached for her. Their physical contact amplified their neural link. Suddenly, John wasn't just accessing her memories, he was living them. Centuries of watching her people die, the weight of being one of the last survivors, the moment she first detected his genetic signature on Earth. Her growing feelings for him weren't just about survival anymore. The neural surge had an unexpected effect. Crystal formations began growing from their joined hands, spreading across the chamber. Raiders screamed as crystalline structures erupted around them, trapping them in translucent prisons. The hybrid bond. Nova gasped. It's complete. John helped Lyra stand, their combined power pulsing through the crystal network. Through their enhanced connection, they could feel every raider in the city, every weapon being aimed, every plan being formed. The central spire, Lyra said. We can use the city itself as a weapon. They fought their way through crystal corridors, their movements perfectly synchronized. John's human adaptability combined with Lyran power made them nearly unstoppable. But the Raiders had numbers. Wave after wave came at them, wearing them down. A plasma bolt grazed John's arm, and he felt Lyra's pain through their link, as if it were her own wound. Finally, they reached the central spire's control room. Nova immediately began activating ancient defense systems. The city's crystal matrix, Lyra explained, it can be tuned to resonate at frequencies that will disrupt their technology. But the power required could shatter half the city. Nova finished. Outside, the Raiders' mothership loomed closer, its weapons charging. They had minutes at most. John placed his hands on the crystal control panel. Through his hybrid DNA, he could feel the city's vast network of crystalline energy. The power to save or destroy was literally at his fingertips. Lyra placed her hands over his. Their combined consciousness expanded through the crystal matrix, touching every part of the vast city. They felt the fear of hiding civilians, the determination of Lyran defenders, the cold calculation of raiders preparing their final assault. Together, Lyra whispered, both in his mind and aloud. They began channeling power through the crystal network. The city itself started humming, resonating with their hybrid energy. Raiders watched in horror as their weapons crystallized in their hands. But maintaining the resonance was costly. John felt the strain in every cell of his transformed body. Lyra's consciousness supported his, their shared strength the only thing preventing the power from overwhelming them both. The Raider's mothership fired its main weapon. A beam of destructive energy lanced toward the central spire. In that moment, John and Lyra poured everything they had into the crystal matrix. Their hybrid power, their shared consciousness, their combined will to protect what they loved. The city answered with a pulse of crystalline energy that lit up the purple sky like a new sun. The battle's outcome would determine not just their fate, but the future of human-Lyran relations. As the pulse of energy expanded outward, John held Lyra close, their silver eyes reflecting the light of what they had created together. The age of separation was ending. Something new was about to begin. The crystalline pulse washed over the Raider's mothership like a tidal wave of light. Their technology failed instantly, weapons and shields crystallizing into useless sculptures. The surviving Raiders fled in emergency pods, leaving their frozen ship hanging in Lyra Prime's purple sky. But victory had come at a cost. John and Lyra collapsed, their hybrid powers nearly drained. The neural link between them flickered like a dying star. The city's crystal matrix is destabilizing, Nova reported, her fingers dancing over control panels. The power surge damaged critical systems. Through their weakened connection, John felt Lyra's fear. Not for herself, but for what came next. The moment of truth they'd both been avoiding. "You have to make your final choice," Lyra said softly. "The transformation can still be reversed, but only for the next few hours." John looked at his reflection in a crystal wall. His silver eyes glowed with hybrid power, purple-tinged skin shimmering with residual energy. He barely recognized himself, yet somehow felt more complete than ever. Nova projected a hologram showing his genetic structure. "The hybrid DNA is stabilizing. If you choose to stay, the changes become permanent. You'll be the template for a new species, the bridge between humans and Lyrans." "And Earth?" John asked. "My home." "You would be an ambassador," Lyra explained, her voice weak from the battle. "Help us establish peaceful contact. No more secrets, no more manipulation. A true alliance." Through their fading link, John saw flashes of possible futures. Hybrid children playing in restored crystal cities, humans and Lyrans working together, combining their strengths. His extended lifespan meaning centuries to help both civilizations grow. But he also saw what he'd lose. His human family, though distant, would age and die while he lived on. He'd never truly belonged to either world, forever caught between species. "There's something else," Nova said grimly. "The genetic patterns we're seeing. You won't be the last hybrid. Earth carries the markers we planted. More humans will begin transforming naturally within a generation. They'll need guidance," Lyra added. "Someone who understands both sides, someone who's made the journey." The crystal city groaned around them, damaged structures shifting. Through the neural link, John felt the pain of every injured Lyran, the hope of survivors, the weight of centuries of decline possibly ending. He thought of James Chen, the human who'd rejected the transformation. His fear and anger had destroyed him, but John had chosen a different path. Acceptance, understanding, growth. "If I stay," he said, "I want changes. No more genetic manipulation without consent. No more hidden agendas." Lyra took his hand, their neural link strengthening at the contact. "We offer a true partnership. Help us rebuild, not just survive." Through their connection, John felt her sincerity, and something deeper. Their bond had grown beyond mere genetics. In her centuries of life, she'd never felt a connection like this. The city's crystals sang with harmonic energy, responding to their combined presence, a reminder of the power they could wield together, the changes they could make. "There will be others who fear us," Nova warned. "More raiders, rival species, even humans who reject the coming changes." John stood, helping Lyra to her feet. Their silver eyes met, understanding flowing between them. Sometimes the hardest decisions were the only right ones. The future of two species hung on his next words. Earth's first hybrid, first ambassador, first bridge between worlds, had to choose his path. Around them, the damaged crystal city waited for restoration. Above, the raiders' crystallized ship served as a monument to change. And through the neural link, Lyra's presence offered something he never expected to find among the stars: belonging. The time for his final decision had come.